Love Letters to Virginia, the podcast that keeps Virginia on the map, is sponsored by Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so you can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to Anchor FM to get started. Welcome back to Season 2 of the Love Letters to Virginia podcast. I'm your host, Vanessa Pasmino. Thanks for listening. Hey, Travis, how are you?
Hey, I am doing great, Vanessa. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. So where am I calling you from
Good.
now?
So I am in my apartment with terrible lighting. I live in Johns Creek, Georgia, which is north, like right north of Atlanta. So, um, yeah, that's where I am in the world. I moved here um, a little bit over a year ago. So that's where I am.
Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you. I miss Virginia though. I mean, I'm Virginia at heart, obviously.
You grew up here then?
Yes, I grew up in a small town called Broadnax, Virginia,
Oh,
um, which is like South Side. It's almost North Carolina, but we're still Virginia proud, you know.
so how do you recognize someone from Virginia?
Ooh, that's a good question. Someone from Virginia. I mean, Virginia is so diverse, I think, because there's so many, there's like Virginia Beach, the Hampton Roads area, and then there's where I'm from, South Side, and then there's like the northern part, which is very, you know, city and very different. So a Virginia person, you know them because they're cool. That's how you know a Virginia person, even if they're from one of those many different places. We all just, I don't know, there's a very specific um, hospitality, I think. I think Virginia people are so congenial. And even like now that I live in Georgia and I used to live in North Carolina too, like I don't know, I just feel like Virginia people are nicer. No disrespect to the Georgia people or North Carolina people, but I think Virginia people are just have that natural niceness.
They
Do
tend
you
to
agree?
be
What part of Virginia do you live in?
sorry. Oh, I'm in Virginia Beach, and I definitely
Okay.
find that people tend to be really supportive.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially Virginia Beach. I mean, I think that's like if you're gonna live in Virginia, you should live there. So that makes sense.
So what brought you down to Georgia?
So I came to Georgia because I'm currently in a master's program for screenwriting at University of Georgia, and I have always wanted to live in Georgia um, for a number of years, and I wanted to take up screenwriting, and this felt like a really good place to do it because it wasn't, as far as California, like I didn't have to go to another coast and I didn't have to go to New York. And so Atlanta felt right. And so yeah, so I came here to study screenwriting and film.
That is so amazing. So are you in Atlanta?
Yeah, just I tell people I'm in Atlanta. I'm just north of Atlanta, but I'm basically, I'm in like a suburb of Atlanta. So I count that. I think that counts.
Right, like when people from DC when I claim they're from Virginia.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like it's close enough. It's close enough.
Oh, so
So
cool. So
yeah, I'm kind of in Atlanta.
so what are you writing as far as screenplays goes?
So my goal is to work in TV. I really want to develop sitcoms. So I have been working with my professor, who's like my mentor, kind of, and she's been really. helping me with all that I write and giving me a lot of good notes and helping me do better and make better drafts. So I'm working to write sitcoms, develop sitcoms. Um, that's the big dream, is to be like a male Shonda Rhimes, but for comedy. So we'll see. We'll see. If you know anyone from Netflix, tell them to hit me up.
You know it. So are you more on the drama storytelling side of things, like a dramedy?
So, yeah, sometimes what I'm working on right now, I actually have to turn it in to my professor tomorrow. But it is a dramedy more so. But I love comedy, and I think that there's so much that you can do with comedy. And my favorite TV shows are all comedies, and so I like working that lens. Um, but yeah, I hope to write comedies and dramedies and hopefully expand even further past that.
Awesome. Yeah, I just had to ask when you said Shonda Rhimes because I'm like, she's definitely like a blend.
Yeah, yeah. I know, like, Grey's Anatomy, of course, is in its like 100th season by now. Um, but she's really done drama so well. Um, but having those like comedic moments too. So hopefully I'm the opposite. Hopefully I'm like I can do comedy but also have like dramatic stories interwoven, you know. So we'll see.
So let me ask you, what is the story that you are dying to tell?
I have a lot. I have a lot. But what I'm working on right now in school, and I'm really like proud of it and excited about it, is a story about a group of young people in different levels of faith, right? And at that and this point in their lives. And so I am a religious person. I grew up in church and I went to a Christian college, and I've um, you know, had that experience all throughout my life. And so many people that I know who have had similar experiences are, in a place where they're kind of reevaluating things, and they want to, just have more understanding, and they want to figure out what religion means to them and what God means to them. And so I wrote a script about that. And I think that it will be really timely. Um, and I think that it's a story worthwhile. It's a story worth telling through comedy.
Laughter is the best medicine.
Exactly. That's my thought, because it's like it can be such a heavy topic for a lot of people, and like real trauma. Like a lot of people have experienced like true trauma um in religion. Um but yeah, hopefully my script will do those stories justice.
That's so interesting. I'm excited to see what you have.
Thank you. I'm excited. Me too. I'm excited. Hopefully it comes out the way that I want it to.
I know the feeling. Which piece did you want to read for us today?
So I have one that is very special to me. Um, and it's called The Effects of Plants. And I like to write, and I'm in school to be a writer. I love poetry. I don't write it as often, but when I do write, it's because I feel really, really inspired. And the this poem that I wrote is about mental health. And I wrote it one day when I was in my apartment and, just wasn't having a great day, just wasn't feeling great. And just, kind of that hopefulness that you can feel through little things. So that's the backstory for this poem.
Okay.
So this is The Effects of Plants. There are some days, probably more days than I feel proud to admit, that I'd rather sit alone in the dark, distracting myself so that I don't ever have to truly feel awake. But now I have this little green plant in this little blue pot that sits on my countertop. And I know that in order to be healthy and strong, and in order to grow, that little green plant in that little blue pot needs a dose of sunshine. So in order to feed him, I go over to my window and I open up my blinds, even though I'd rather be sitting alone in the dark, distracting myself, so I don't ever have to truly feel awake. And what I realized as the room brightened was that having that little green plant in that little blue pot forces me to let the light in. And then I realized that maybe having something to care for, no matter how small it is helping me in ways I didn't know it would. So yeah, so that's my poem.
I love that. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome. Thank you for letting me read.
Absolutely. I really appreciate how grounding it is, and I'm honestly gonna make a soundbite of this, and I'm gonna share that all the time.
Oh, thank you. Really, I'm honored. Because there's plenty of people that struggle with mental health, myself being one. And it literally was like an epiphany to me, like when I thought of that, like when the sun came in the room and I was like, oh, this is good for me. Like this makes me feel better to know that I'm doing something good for something else. Like, my cousin gave me that plant as a gift, and so I wanted to do a good job and I wanted to take care of it because it was a gift from her. And I was like, oh, that's a good thing. It's a good thing when you care about something else. And like through care, through caring for something else, you find it in you to care for yourself. And that just like shocked me. I was like, oh, that I need to remember that. Like I need to like take that seriously. So yeah, so that's how that happened.
I love plants.
Me too. I need to get more. Do you have a lot of plants in your place?
In my room, I have at least 4 or 5 different plants right now.
Oh, okay. So you're doing better than me. I need to get on your level.
It started around the pandemic. I was like, I need to have some life around me.
Yeah, same. That makes sense. I feel the same way.
Do you have a hard time coming up with content ideas for your podcast? I find that there is nothing more embarrassing than all of a sudden being stumped in the middle of a conversation where it's like, I know I had more questions for you, but I just can't remember what they are right now. And that's why I'm trying Poddex. Poddex is the best all-in-one podcast idea generation tool. You get everything from episode ideas to interesting conversation starters for interviews, engaging discussions for your live streams, and even social media content ideas. With this tool, you don't have to spend weeks trying to come up with content for an episode or unique questions for your guests. Just shuffle the cards and pick one at random, hit the record button, and get started. Now you can make better content, have more fun while you're at it, and get your viral moment, all with Poddex. Head over to poddex.com and use code C4C.
Hey, this is Latasha Holloway. I plan to be the future mayor of Virginia Beach, but when the time comes, I will need your support. As a veteran of the healthcare field, I understand something about empathy. We must have empathy and compassion in order to improve Virginia Beach.